Hello Papillons, welcome back to my channel. This is Angelic Portal 111, also known as Fat Cat, and this is the YouTube channel where we get into the topics of self-development, astrology, sound healing, and so much more. So today we're going to get into the themes that surround the full moon in Capricorn. Full moon in Capricorn is happening today, the 21st of June, and the window or the portal of the full moon and its potent lunar energies are open for about 3 to 5 days around this time. So from 19, 20, 21st, 22nd, even touching to the 23rd of June, we can access and harness these positive energies to our benefit in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to heal, in order to integrate, in order to blossom. So, I'm going to get into all the themes that surround this full moon in Capricorn, but of course, the themes that I am bringing up may not resonate with all of you because the full moon affects each one of us quite differently and at different phases. So let us say that for me, the full moon affected me very much yesterday. Maybe for you the impact is happening today, or maybe today it is not, it feels very neutral and normal, but suddenly you're hit by the energies tomorrow. So it can vary very much from person to person, because time does not really exist. We have constructed time for our benefit. So take it as it resonates and take what resonates for you specifically. um, so let us look at the energy of Capricorn to begin with, right? Capricorn is a cardinal sign. It is ruled by Saturn, the planet of time, the grandfather, the planet of limitations, restrictions, and hard work paying off, the planet with the largest amount of gravity in a sense, very pragmatic, very practical, very rooted, and always looking at the long term. What is the long term benefit? What is the long term payoff? Building the home step by step, one brick at a time, right? So this is the energy of Capricorn, highly structured, highly physical and rooted, the earth element. And on the opposite of Capricorn, we have Cancer, quite the opposite. And the Cancer is ruled by the moon, the lunar cycles, the seasonal changes, the emotions, the ups and downs, the tides. So what happens with Cancer is it's a very flowy energy. It's a very dreamy energy. It's highly emotional. It's highly receptive, intuitive, feminine, nurturing, boundless, creative. And then you have Capricorn, which is providing structure. It's masculine. It's father time. It's rooting everything down. It is asking the question of what can be done now. What do we need to do to get where we want to be? It is all about orientating ourselves. It is all about the action, the outcome. It is about simplifying. It is about getting to the bare bones of an issue, of a problem, or of a particular situation. Whereas what Cancer would do in that situation is it would move around. It would feel into the situation. It would observe what are the emotions that are coming up and then act according to the emotions that are coming up. So you see the so that is these are the two nodes, and on the same axis you have Capricorn and Cancer, which have a lot to learn from each other, which have a lot to integrate from one another. And when that integration of the masculine and feminine happens, when that integration of the mother and the father happen, father being Capricorn and mother being Cancer, parent being Capricorn and child being Cancer. Cancer is also called the eternal child in some ways. So when that merges, what is that third energy that we receive? What is that trinity? Um, what is that magic, the flow that can be created by the combining of these two energies, or these two elements, by the alchemy of the father and mother? This is what we are going to look at today. So as we already know that in our day to day, for many, many, many years, for centuries, the masculine energies have been dominant. It has been all about, take the industrial age, for example. It is all about getting things done super efficiently. It's all about mass production, it's all about productivity, it's all about how much money am I making. And it is all rooted in logic, in science, in structures, the human world, right? So it's almost like driving a rod into the earth and establishing like this is my territory. It's highly masculine energy, and we have been dominated by this energy for so long, and obviously as a result of that imbalance in energies, um, it's tipping over and spilled over, and finally the feminine is having her turn to rise up. The feminine energies excuse me, the feminine energies are rising up. Why? To soften the world, to bring back the energy of creativity and play and flow, to bring back a sense of mystery and mysticism, the not knowing, the surrendering, the unconditional loving energies. Why? Because of the imbalance that has happened, that we've seen, that even continues to happen, especially in city structures, right? Capitalism is still highly rampant, and it still trickles into every little nook and cranny of our lives. But there is an uprising of the counterculture movement, which is happening quite naturally, perhaps because the earth is tired of all the games we are playing on her, right? And this is a Cancerian energy sort of rising up to meet the Capricorn energy, to soften the Capricorn energy, to 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 kind of give a sort of flow and floweriness and dreaminess that is so much needed in the culture and society that we live in. So it is all about the interplay. How are we going to balance the two energies within ourselves instead of succumbing entirely into one energy, instead of becoming strictly, instead of adopting patriarchy, instead of being a hustler and burning ourselves out and running on the treadmill. Are we going to do that and be hyper masculine and mimic the men? Or are we going to, or are we tipping too far into the direction of the feminine? We're kind of getting lost in our emotions, we're getting lost in self-pity, we are drowning in our own tears and our sorrows, and we're playing the victim, we're manipulating people through our emotions because we have no other way of manipulating the world, right? So for the feminine energy, manipulation happens through emotions, because the feminine energy knows that she does not have control over the world. The world is structured in a way that is that goes against her natural state and being. So she uses her femininity, she uses her sexuality, her seductiveness, her mystery in order to get her own way. This is the feminine shadow path, right? And for masculine, the shadow path is control, oppression, dominance, violence, power play, right? So I'm not saying that one is good and one is bad. Any kind of manipulation is negative, but I am just trying to also explain that why is this manipulation coming about. It is always a result of an imbalance in energies, which we have a natural tendency to want to balance. There's a lot of flies here because I live in a village, so anyways, it's part of nature, right? Yeah. So this is a huge theme that is coming out during the full moon in Capricorn, is how balanced are we within our, the feminine and masculine aspects. How comfortable are we with both parts of us, or have we kind of dropped one to the corner? Have we pushed one aside? Have we abandoned our femininity entirely because the world has hardened us and we want to achieve, and we need to compete, and we feel that's the only way we can succeed? That's a hyper masculine toxic route, right? Toxic masculinity. Or are we on the other extreme of being like overly emotional, not being able to pick ourselves up, and forgetting what we even wanted in the first place, getting lost in the waves of emotion that come and go, and over identifying with our emotions? No. So what this full moon in Capricorn is asking of us is, hey, come back into balance. Accept both sides of who you are and come into the balance. Come to the neutral state. Come into Vairagya. Vairagya means transparency. It means like a state of so much colorlessness, transparency, neutrality, that you can take on any shape, you can take on any form, you can take on any kind of beingness, but at the same time you're not identifying with that beingness. You are not putting a label on yourself, you're not boxing yourself. And this is a very high state of being that is reached through the alchemy of the Ida and Pingala, right? The left and right sides of who we are, the left and right brain hemispheres. And then we come into the kind of trinity and that central line and that balance, from where everything happens effortlessly, everything is a flow. We're able to manifest effortlessly, we're able to love unconditionally, we're able to emanate an aura of joy and peace and bliss, and take on many different avatars, take on many different versions, without identifying with any one version as, hey, so I'm a mother, I have to behave this way, I'm an artist, so I'm going to constantly rebel against society, or I am a woman, so I'm supposed to dress a certain way, I'm supposed to speak a certain way. No, you are just inhabiting these roles at different moments in time, within your life cycle, and you have all the freedom to be that role, and then also discard the role when you need to and move on to some other role. And in within one day itself, we are playing so many different roles, we are taking on so many different versions of ourselves. So it is all about not identifying with any one role, with any one character, with any one avatar, right? So how do we balance these two energies of the masculine, the feminine, the parent and the child, right? How do we do this? I would say the first step is we need to accept and acknowledge our emotions and feelings. This applies to the Cancer modality, this applies to the inner child within each of us. So, the feminine and the inner child within us really, really wants to be seen. They want the attention, they want to be loved, because they are naturally nurturing and loving and playful, right? They want that energy to be reciprocated. And when there is a lack of that reciprocation, then there's all the shadow aspects come into play. There is sulking, there is crying, there are tantrums, right? There is denial, there are delusions. Maybe more than denial, there's delusions, there's illusions, there's fantasies. These are all the coping, there's addictions. These are the coping mechanisms that come up as a result of us not paying attention to our own inner child or to our femininity. What happens when we don't pay attention? There's a rebellion from within, and that rebellion can come in multiple forms. It could be like anxiety, it could be over attachment to somebody. So in a connection, in a loving connection, if you have been neglected, if your inner child has been neglected, or if you have consequently neglected the playful, creative and sensual part of you, then what happens? Maybe you're overly attached to your partner. you know what is that attachment style called? It is anxious attached. Maybe you have anxious attachment. It's very difficult for you to be securely attached. You get easily jealous, you get easily triggered, and you get very easily anxious if your partner is not around, if they haven't replied to your texts or not returned your calls on time, like when you want them to, right? And all of these point to some sort of abandonment issues, some sort of childhood neglect. It is highly possible that you were neglected as a child. Your emotional needs were not met, even if you're not neglected in the sense of physically, in the sense you were provided with shelter and good food and clothing, but maybe emotionally none of your needs were being met. You were not feeling heard, you were not feeling seen, you were not feeling listened to, and then as a result it manifests later on in you choosing people who are unavailable, right? You constantly sabotage your own romantic relationships, by constantly choosing people who mirror to you the childhood neglect, who mirror to you your abandonment issues, and that is a recurring pattern that then keeps you limited, that keeps you stuck, that keeps you frozen in childhood. And there's so much out there for you, but you don't see that because you keep dropping into the pattern, and the pattern is easy, the pattern is familiar, the toxic pattern is familiar. What is not easy is to take responsibility, is to break out of that, is to reparent. And that is what the full moon in Capricorn is asking of you. It is asking of you to see, to recognize what are those emotional patterns that keep repeating. Why are you repeating these emotional patterns? What is the deeper wound within that? What is the deeper cause for that? And then looking at that, how can we now reparent ourselves in a way that best suits us? How can we give to that inner child? How can we give to our feminine side that which was taken away from them, or that which was never given to them in the way they wanted? So ask yourself, hey, love, hey, love of my life. That's me, right? That's you for you. That's me for me. You are the love of your life. I am the love of my life. So, hey, love of my life, what do you feel you need? What can I do for you to make you feel seen, to make you feel loved, to make you feel accepted, to make you feel heard? Ask your inner child, hey, inner child of mine, hey, sweet child of mine, what would you like for me to do to make you feel better, to make you feel seen, to make you feel loved? The same things again, like to make you feel supported. And you will get the answers. Either you can do a journaling, or you can just have a conversation, or you can just meditate upon your inner child. You can meditate upon the imbalanced aspect of you, which could be the feminine side, and ask her, ask him, what is it that you truly need? And it's not always about giving this child what it wants, because you know and I know that children will want anything and everything. If you give them candy once, they want 5 more candies, right? If you give them a toy once, they want like the bigger toy, they want something super expensive. So the desires and needs of a child will never stop. So this is where the disciplining part comes in, right? So first we acknowledge, first we sit with our feelings, first we meditate on what was neglected, what was not present, what was not present that was much needed for that child's blossoming, that child to become like a beautiful flower, but instead maybe it just wilted and turned inwards upon itself. So the whole task for us now as an adult is reparenting softly, like how are we going to help that child blossom again, so that then that inner child is freed within us, and in this way we are freeing up the space within us, and then our obstacles are cleared, so that we can create an effortless manifestation and flow in our life. And that there's so much extra energy within us now, there's so much more freedom and lightness once that pain, that immense pain and trauma relating to the self neglect or the parental neglect is healed, right? Yeah. This might become a large video, but I think it's so important, so it does not matter, does it? It does not matter the length of how long this video goes. Yes, so first thing is, this full moon is going to trigger a lot of emotions for you. It might trigger a lot of emotions for you, especially emotions within certain important relationships, like your father, your mother, or your partner, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or your spouse, right? These relationships and the dynamics and the not having something received, not having your needs met, this can be a huge pain point, and this could be highly triggered at this time for you. Or even the emotions from the past which you thought you had overcome may come up. So for example, you had abandonment issues relating to your father, right? You had a father wound, that he never paid you attention, he was never really there for you emotionally. You thought you had sorted it out, but it might come up to be cleaned up further, to be explored further, because maybe you need to give even more self love to yourself. Maybe you need to self discipline yourself softly once more. Maybe there's a little bit more reparenting to be done. So this is a huge theme that might come up, okay? The father wound, the mother wound, abandonment wounds. So first step, we sit with those wounds, we feel those wounds, we acknowledge, and we have a conversation with the wounded part of us, that what do you need, what do you want, and you can write this down, because writing helps immensely. Okay, that's the first stage. The next stage is action, right? The next stage is, what do you do after that? After you feel, after you've got the answers, after you're fully feeling, I mean, not avoiding at all, fully feeling it, all that pain, it is going to be a little painful. After feeling, what are the action steps? Okay, based on what your inner child or the wounded part has told you, let's start taking the actions towards a better future, towards becoming the aligned version of ourselves, to being the best version of ourselves. So the action steps: Okay, this is where soft discipline comes in. What is soft discipline? Okay, I have been quite fascinated with this idea or concept of soft discipline lately, because I have observed, because I was brought up in a highly disciplinarian household. My father was scary. Now he has softened, but he was quite a scary, intimidating figure. And we had a lot of rules growing up. I had a lot of rules growing up, and there were a lot of limitations. There's a lot of like rules and do's and don'ts. And I was used to following that for many years, but there's also a lot of resentment with that, right? And definitely feeling that my emotions were not really taken into account, and I had to constantly suppress my emotions in order to be productive, in order to be the ideal daughter, in order to be a human, in order to be societally like, perfect, right? Like that perfect little peg that fits into society's books. But I was not that person, and I never was that person, and it was a huge struggle for me to fit in that way, and it definitely felt a little draining. Not maybe not a little, but at that time, since I was conditioned, I did not recognize how draining it was, or how much I resented my father for putting me into that kind of system and structure, like under lock and key. And the minute I stepped out of that household, I went to the other extreme of being a highly chaotic, rebellious individual. Yes, I was creative. Yes, I was wild in a good way, but I also went to the other extreme of overreacting to the rules, or to the structure, to the parenting, right? Of being excessively, like, giving myself so much freedom that I lost track of myself. I lost track of my goals and desires and dreams, and I kind of slipped sideways. I fell into addictions. So this is just my example to let you know that any extreme is just bad for you. It teaches you a lot, and it teaches you to come back into temperance and balance. That's my sign, and um, that's my learning, at least. And this is why when I talk about something like soft discipline versus hard discipline, I find it very important. Discipline itself is important, but what kind of discipline are we talking about? When we talk about hard discipline, we are again playing by the books of the patriarchal system and the capitalist system, that we have to work till we are feeling burnt out. We have to work till the day we die, and we have to constantly people please, and we have to constantly prove ourselves, and we have to earn this much money to be of this much worth, and this is our status. Only we have to prove our status in society. All of this is hard discipline. But in soft discipline really looks more about self-care and self-love and self-worth. It really looks at how am I feeling. It looks at, okay, are my daily needs being met? Am I feeling good about this? Which is something like a capitalist system will never even ask you. They don't care if you feel good or not. They just want you to be a soulless machine that is mindlessly productive, right? And it's like, don't take care of yourselves, neglect yourselves. That's the mantra of capitalism, if you really look at it. Choose short-term gains and pleasures, and then really ruin your body as a result. But soft discipline is adding a touch, maybe a little more of than a touch. It's adding femininity into the patriarchal structures. It's adding femininity, it's adding mindfulness and awareness, so at every moment you are actually enjoying the process of what you're doing. So if you're working on something, you're adding so much love into it. Let's say you're making a post, or you're editing your video, you're putting so much love into it, you're putting creativity into it, you're playing around with it, maybe you're making it funny in certain moments. And in that sense, you're adding life to the work. The work becomes a joy, it becomes a pleasure. Even if you're doing mundane activities like washing your clothes, or cooking for yourself, you play some really nice jazz music, or like I play a lot of frequency music, healing music, or I play sometimes tribal music or Native American music, because that makes me feel happy. And when I cook, I dance, right? This is like adding huge doses of femininity into the daily tasks that we must do, we have to do, our responsibilities, which we can't escape from, but making it a huge joy, making it a play, making it a leela. This is the essence of soft discipline. Soft discipline is getting the things done, but not getting it done just for the sake of getting it done, not because you want to tick all the boxes, but because you're enjoying the process, and you want your life to be a living art. You want life to be meaningful. right? You want life to be meaningful, but you also want life to be beautiful. You want life to be enjoyable and pleasurable and luxurious, right? This is soft discipline. So in soft discipline, let's say you have a to-do list. Normally with hard discipline, you have like a to-do list and you're like, I have to get this done, this done, this done. Okay, after a while, if you're not able to get those things done, how do you feel? You feel horrible about yourself. You feel frustrated, you feel angry, and possibly, like someone like me who's sensitive, I get headaches because I'm forcing myself to get it done, like, as if I'm a donkey that is carrying loads, carrying all the burdens up the mountain and down the mountain. And I'm sorry, but I feel very sad for those animals, but that is really what happens with them, right? They don't have a choice, but we do have a choice. We can be kinder and softer with ourselves and still get things done, and get things done in a flow, and get things done naturally and beautifully and creatively, instead of getting things done just for the sake of ticking a box. This is soft discipline. Okay, so in soft discipline, let's say you have a to-do list. Maybe the to-do list does not have to be so long. Maybe instead of having a to-do list daily, you can have something, you can have more achievable goals for the end of the week, right? So let's say it's say you have failed at something, right? You've failed at doing yoga 5 times a week. Okay, you want to do it 5 times a week, but you're just unable to do it. You're only able to do it 3 times a week. Then set the goal to start off as, I will do yoga 3 times a week. So you're still disciplining yourself, but you're making it a little easier. You're making it more pleasurable for yourself. And then when you get it done, you feel good about yourself. You're still fit, you're still physically fit. You're just not forcing yourself to do something you don't want. Because after a point, it just reaches burnout, right? And then you start hating yourself, and you start shaming yourself, and you criticize yourself and judge yourself. And all of this is this old paradigm. This is the hard discipline method that we are trying to discard. So this full moon in Capricorn is also asking you to embrace the femininity that the Cancer season that we are moving into is giving to us, right? The Cancer season is all about the home, the hearth, the nurturing, creating a beautiful space around you, nurturing and harmonizing all the relationships, giving love to pets, to animals, to your cat, your dog, to the birds, to your neighbors, coming from the heart space, coming from the emotions. So really, like, putting life into the daily chores, putting life into our goals and desires and dreams, and not doing them forcefully or mechanically. That is a very important message that has come through. Okay, and thirdly, like, something very important that came up was the taking of personal responsibility, the responsibility for your emotions, and dropping the victim mentality. Okay, one of the shadow aspects of Cancer is emotional manipulation and playing the victim, expecting people to constantly help you, constantly be sensitive to your emotions and needs, taking everything personally, being highly touchy and moody. And as a Cancer rising, I know that I have this within me, right? Where I just take things so personally, because I'm like, I am so sensitive. I feel you. Why can't you feel me too? But that is not how the world works, and everyone's different. And that acceptance of difference is so important. So, firstly, it is important in this moon, especially Father Capricorn, Father Time, and Saturn are teaching us, hey, like, these emotions you're feeling, they're your responsibility. Right now you're an adult, so even all the neglect that you had as a child, that's in the past. We can look at it, we can feel it, but we're going to do something about it ourselves, independently of someone else, without blaming the parents, without blaming the society, without blaming our lover or our partner. It is my responsibility, right? So take responsibility for your own emotions, take responsibility for your thoughts and actions, take take personal responsibility, and don't just allow yourselves to slip into victim mentality, which is much easier. It's easy to be like to play the victim and to go around blaming and complaining to everyone about everything, whether it's about the world and the world news, or whether it is about, oh, I could not, I just couldn't jog today because there were so many people around. That those are all these little excuses you make, right? Or I couldn't do yoga today because this person said something mean to me, and my whole day was spoiled. This is exactly us being overly feminine and childish, and giving into our emotions to the extent that it is limiting us, it is stopping us from growing into our full potential, and it is just an excuse and nothing else. So also recognizing and being discerning when you're creating excuses to not get something done, to not be disciplined. And and saying, hey, I recognize that these are my emotions. I recognize that this is some childhood neglect that I need to work on, and it really doesn't have anything to do with you. You are a mirror to that, and I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to thrive, and I'm going to, like, yeah, I'm going to blossom. I like the word blossom rather than succeed. It's so much more flowery and feminine, and it's got that Cancer energy to it. So yeah, hey, it's like, hey, it's my responsibility, and I'm going to do a great job, like, overcoming it and loving on myself and nurturing myself, doing what needs to be done. Okay, so yes, emotional, taking responsibility for our own emotions. Okay, so I think there was something else I wanted to say, and yeah, I think I've kind of said everything. Yeah, just want to also remind you guys that there is no need to be perfectly perfect, right? Perfection keeps us in a frozen state where we just continue criticizing ourselves and judging ourselves, but we don't really move forward. We aren't really enjoying life, enjoying the journey of life. So also with soft discipline, rest and relaxation is important. Again, not too much of it, but having enough rest and relaxation, say power naps or drinking like really nice herbal teas, or putting on the agarbatti, just time to just lay back and relax, can actually make you even more productive. And we know this. Half an hour or 1 hour of being in flow state is much better than 3-4 days of hard labor, hard mechanical labor. So it's all about achieving that flow state, which we can only achieve when we have those two energies, the beautiful masculine, the beautiful feminine, in balance, coming within and blossoming out through the crown chakra. Okay, so these are the themes, my lovely, beautiful papillons, my cuties. And I hope this video was of some value to you. And if so, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. This is a pretty new channel, but my heart is really into it. So please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.